Hey guys, Allie Duzett here, and today we have a lot of crazy stuff to talk about because I woke up today to news about Iran and that the US has apparently sent missiles over there. Apparently, Khamenei is dead, although we're going to talk more about that in a minute. Um, and okay, this all is crazy because we were just talking last week, and I've been talking about it for a year, that this Saturn Neptune conjunction in Aries was going to herald in an era of war. And I've talked about how that could be literal, could be symbolic, but here we are, and it's getting a little bit literal. And so we've got to talk about all of it. There is so much interesting stuff going on. And of course, this is just the beginning. We have 2.5 years where Saturn and Neptune are going to be together in Aries. Aries is the god of war in Roman mythology. And Mars is the god of war. I mean, it's Aries and Mars are the same. And here we have Mars right there next to the sun. And here we have this big conjunction in Aries with the moon in Aries in that moment. And to me, I'm like, okay, this is a huge indicator of war. Having all of this stuff in Aries in the first house, bodies will be affected. And I've already made a number of videos about this Neptune Saturn conjunction in Aries. So go watch those if you want to know what I was saying about this a month ago, 2 months ago, and beyond. But today we've got to talk about Operation Epic Fury, which is what happened overnight, where President Trump ordered this operation to happen, I guess, and this strike on Iran. I looked it up and it said that the operation was officially going, like the timestamp on it is 1:15 a.m. from Washington, D.C. And I was really looking hard for records of what exact time the first strike was in Tehran. Is that the place? In Iran, what time did the first thing hit? And I couldn't find anything. So if anybody finds the exact time that the first thing hit, I want it. So please leave a comment or come join my Facebook group and put it in there. I want to take a look. Um, because of course, yes, this is a huge move for the US to do, but also it's as or more impactful, obviously, for the people of Iran. So I'm like, I wish I could run this accurately from Iran. Um, I mean, I guess I could run it at the same time, but what I want is that moment that the strike has occurred there. But let's go back to these charts. Okay, now one of the first things that really stood out to me about this chart is, of course, that everything going on is really clustering around the IC, which is this point right here, the very bottom of the chart, the opposite of the midheaven. And one thing that I was thinking as soon as I saw it, I thought, oh, interesting, because in all of my research on earthquakes over the past couple of years that we have had various earthquakes and I've ran the charts, what I found is that a lot of astrologers say that um, earthquakes earthquakes are hard to predict with a star chart. But what happens in retrospect is that often what you find is that the planet Uranus is within 15 degrees of that IC point, that point at the opposite of the midheaven, at the very bottom of the chart. So when I looked at this space, okay, Uranus is not super close to the base of the chart, but everything else seems to be. We've got a lot going on right there at the IC, um, right there, which to me is saying unexpected events, a little bit of like an upside down day situation, which I think it is. We've been in negotiations with Iran since 1980, right? I mean, it's been a long time, and so it is upside down day. We're starting a new era, I guess, which also makes sense. Look at that, Neptune and Saturn together at 0, 1 degree of Aries, still a critical degree, kicking off that Aries warfare style way of thinking about the world. And it's right there, right next to that IC. What is that? 6 degrees away, 7 degrees away. I'm like, am I so bad at math? Is it 8 degrees away? Anyway, um, because we have 0, 0 degrees. Anyway, um, this to me, seeing all this stuff clustered at the bottom of the chart, I thought, oh boy. Um, yep, time for a new page, time for maybe some reevaluation of our peers. That's the third house deals with. our peers. And we've got a lot going on, including Mars right there at 28 degrees of Aquarius. And it's not a tight conjunction. It's really not. They're like 10 degrees apart, the Mars and this North Node. But gathering there, it's like, okay, some little aggression towards some peers. One thing that a little bit surprised me was that there was not much going on in the seventh house of legal contracts and enemies and alliances. But I was a little premature in that because there is some interesting stuff when we pull up America's chart. So let's pull it right up. America's birthday. Yeah. As soon as I ran it in the context of America's chart, you can see that America's natal Uranus is at 8 degrees of Gemini, right there next to that 7 degrees of Gemini, cusping the seventh house of this Operation Epic Fury chart. And then we have Mars there as well, all in there. And then we have Venus and Jupiter also in the seventh house of this operations timestamp. To me, I saw that and I thought, okay, it looks like when you look at it in this context, it's like, okay, it appears that this altercation was a little bit inevitable or like destined, you know? But I don't know, bad news for Iran because these are the two benefics, and of course they're always conjunct for America. Venus and Jupiter, big blessings on our economy and money and functionality and our homeland. But to have that here, basically I wouldn't want to fight us. Like, yes, you may. Wait, what are you going to use that for?
We're just me.
Do not make anything actually wet. Okay? You may go play with that, but do not soak anything. Okay? I'm gonna play with a spray bottle. One little spray. Okay, fine. Get out of here, please.
It's for our dining room.
No, I'm actually using that right now. Okay. Okay, goodbye. I'm recording a video. Everyone can hear you, and those are not even open. Those boxes have not been opened. Okay? It is not box unboxing time. Okay? Um, all of our Amazon packages arrived, but I haven't opened them yet. But of course, the boxes are really exciting. So, anyways, I'm sorry, my child. I can play with the boxes later. Okay, between this Jupiter and Venus here in the seventh house of this event, and then that part of fortune, America's natal part of fortune, conjunct the moon of this event, this looks like I don't know. I feel like the stars are on America's side with this, whatever that means. Look at that Ceres conjunct the sun of this event. Times and seasons, starting a new season. Here's the moon of this, America's natal moon, conjunct Mars of this event. I think what that definitely indicates, like all eyes are going to be on this event, but over time, I mean, I guess we'll just see how the populace responds to this event over time. But this was a really interesting aggregation of planets. Okay, let's see. I had a couple different charts that I was taking a look at here, and I guess we'll start with a single chart. Um, sorry, I always do these off the cuff, and so we never know where I'm going, but for a moment, let's just talk about Pluto in Aquarius because I've been talking about Pluto in Aquarius also for years. This has been a big deal. We had Pluto return, the return of America's Pluto. Pluto is on a 244-year cycle, and so every 244 years it goes back to where it started from. And so in a country, a lot of times that is linked to big upheaval. It can be civil war or things like famine or like the Black Plague. If one of England's Pluto returns coincided with the Industrial Revolution, which was I think overall a good thing. I mean, I guess it's a little bit up for discussion. There's a lot to be said about the pros and cons of the Industrial Revolution in some ways, but it's not exactly like the Black Plague, right? Like I hope we can agree that it was like not as destructive as some of these other kinds of Pluto returns that have happened for other countries in the past. So with America's Pluto return, I had predicted way back in 2022 when it happened that we were looking at a 12-year denouement where we have kind of an unraveling over the course of 12 years between 2022 and 2034. We were going to see some big shifts, basically a huge upheaval and a restructuring and reordering of society as a whole. And so now it's 2026. So, and it's that all happened on, I believe, February the 20th of 2022. And then we had this exact um, Saturn Neptune conjunction on February the 20th of 2026. And it kind of makes me think that this February 20th time is a little bit like, I think that might be like a critical date. Um, just looking at some of the stuff that has lined up astrologically and literally, of course, on February the 20th of 2022, I believe that was the date that Russia invaded Ukraine as well, which I remember noting at the time and thinking like, oh, weird that this is like America's Pluto return, but it's also the start of this big conflict. And now here we are. We've had the Saturn Neptune conjunction in Aries on February the 20th of 2026. 2 days later, we have dang it, I had to X out of my Google Chrome because it had like a weird, stupid issue. It was doing some weird stuff. What time? Let's see. Okay, Mexico violence break out February 2026, February the 22nd. So 48 hours after this conjunction, there was a Mexican army operation that took place in Tapalpa, Jalisco, that led to the death of CJNG leader Nemesio El Mencho Oseguera Cervantes, triggering widespread retaliatory clashes, including shootouts, explosions, and vehicle and store fires across Jalisco and other parts of the country. So we're seeing like massive violence in Mexico. I've been seeing it on my feed. I've had like friends in Mexico that are like, oh no. And it's like a big deal. So that happened 2 days after this conjunction. And now here we are 1 week after and having this major altercation happening in Iran. So why am I talking about Pluto? Oh yeah, because Pluto in Aquarius. Aquarius governs technology. It governs unexpected um, information. It governs the unrestricted flow of information, seeking information out of the box. And for all these years that I've had my eyes on this Pluto in Aquarius transit, I have predicted that we were going to see massive leaps forward with AI. We are going to have a lot of discussion of aliens, which of course came out in the past a week or two as well. More talk about aliens, like extraterrestrial aliens. We've had huge leaps forward in AI, and that is what kind of brings me back to this situation in Iran. Because this morning, what happened was I saw what happened, and then I got on my Facebook feed, and the top thing on my feed was a guy that was talking about how Israel and the US had said that Khamenei was dead, but that he had seen reports from Iran where they were claiming that he was still alive. And that, and he just pointed out that these days, um, with AI and these like deep fake videos that anybody can do, um, you could you could say somebody's dead and they might actually be dead, but you can also then just make a video of them saying that they're not dead. And you could just post that on the internet, and then what? And so he was talking about, I loved his analogy. His analogy was about um, the Dread Pirate Roberts from The Princess Bride, and how in The Princess Bride, um, Wesley, the main character gets like kidnapped by pirates, and he's like kind of their like pirate worker guy, like a little slave child on this ship, until he kind of works his way up, makes friends with the captain, and the captain decides he wants to retire. And so what he does when he retires, and what all the Dread Pirate Robertses do, is they go find a place to retire and like move all their treasure off it and like get all set up. And then they fire all of the crew and then hire a new crew for the Dread Pirate Roberts, and they name the next guy as the next Dread Pirate Roberts. And there's been a couple of different Dread Pirate Roberts because the important thing is the name. And that when people hear that the Dread Pirate Roberts is here, then they are scared and then they will do what he says. Whereas nobody's going to be afraid of Dread Pirate Wesley. And so this guy this morning just pointed out like we're in an era now where with deep fake video, really anything could happen and anybody could make a video that says it didn't happen. Like, and what are we going to do about that? We have to decide how we're going to feel about that. And that is something also I've been talking about for years, that we were heading into an era where it was not going to be clear what was true and false. And I feel like it's been less clear what's true and false over the years. Anybody remember all those little Facebook jokes on April 1st, April Fool's Day, Um, I feel like our whole lives are going to be like April Fool's Day very soon, where we will be inundated with so much information that may or may not be accurate. Um, I don't know. I feel like maybe we did kill Khomeini, but do I feel that way because when I Google it, all of these answers come up that he did, And what about the people who are being shown deep fakes of him being alive and who think that they still need to listen to him and stuff like that? And we're at the very cusp of this technology, and I think it's going to become way more rampant and way more widespread over these next couple of years. So it's just something to keep an eye on. As I was reading all about that this morning and thinking, so today, as I was preparing for this video, I tried to find any videos like that guy was discussing, and I could not immediately find any. And then I thought, well, then maybe it's not even worth talking about. But then I thought, no, like that's the whole point. Like that is the whole point. Does that video even exist? Like, and it might not exist, but just the idea that a video exists of him like alive, but he's not really alive, like just the idea of it and knowing that it is possible now, like that is a big deal. We're in a time now where the biggest thing that we have going for us is our own connection with our creator. And if we don't have a solid connection, then we're going to be a mess. So pause about that. As we are looking at what's going on, I think it's really important that we understand that um, we are probably being lied to about a lot of things. We're probably being misled about a lot of things. There's no way that we can know the whole story about anything, really, anything in our whole lives, really. But especially about these like big global events, there's just so much opportunity for hidden information, stuff that people cannot know. Um, this morning I was reading about, people who are saying like this was so wrong because Iran was certainly not close to having nuclear weapons. Like if that's the justification, then that's a terrible justification. They're not close at all. But I've mentioned before that my own grandfather was a nuclear scientist for the International Atomic Energy Association. He traveled the entire world working with the nuclear energy programs of third world countries and like terrifying countries. And my opinion, having talked with him for many years about this, is that a lot of places, I'm sorry, people lie. That's it. Oh, that's what I'll say. I've talked to my grandfather for many years to take our deep breaths and realize that there's a lot more going on than any of us can possibly be aware of. And in our own personal journeys, the most important thing is our connection with God. And if we are, adequately connected with God, so that we can be led on our own journeys, because at the end of the day, a lot of crazy things are happening all over the world, but also some crazy things are happening at home. And I don't know, one of my good friends is looking for a job right now, and I don't know, and I was like praying for him to get a job. I'm like, Lord, send my friend a job. And I thought, I don't know, many of us are looking for work right now. Many of us have problems at home. We have problems with our kids and problems with our friendships and problems in marriages and problems in our communities. And whatever is going on a geopolitical scale is big and important, and maybe we should care about it. But also, like, I feel like the time to get very upset about geopolitical events is after we have nothing to be upset about in our personal lives. You know, if you have, I mean, I think it can be very easy to get swept up in rage or stress or fear about global events when maybe those big energies would be better channeled into like cooking a healthy dinner and like choosing to go to bed early. You know, if we are not taking care of our own selves because we're so busy being stressed about stuff we have no control over, like that is not right. We need to take responsibility for the sphere of influence that we have access to. And that's going to be like taking care of our bodies, getting enough sleep, exercising, you know, making sure that we're doing our best to earn the money that we need to earn, and like focusing on our families. So we have a lot of big stuff going on, but I think it's also important to remember that if you can't change much about what's going on, then probably your next best bet is to work on changing you and making yourself as calm and peaceful and prosperous and kind and helpful to others in your actual sphere of influence. That is where we're going to have the most power and have the most success in what we're trying to do. Okay, I wanted to look very quickly at Khamenei's chart right here. We don't know his birth time, but this I thought was very interesting. On the day of his birth, there was a new moon in Aries and conjunct Saturn. So this is, you know, a very aggressive energy. And oh man, when you get a sun and a moon right next to each other on a natal chart, um, well, this is very interesting. Oh, hello, I'm recording, so just keep walking through. When you get the sun and moon together on a natal chart, that's your the way that you think and the way that you feel. And they're very united. And so it can kind of be hard sometimes to see things, see other perspectives very clearly because the inner sun and moon perspective are kind of like right overlaid on top of each other. Let's take a look for reference at Donald Trump's chart, who was born during a lunar eclipse. And we have his sun and moon as far apart as they can possibly be, almost by 1 degree. And when that happens, the full moon or a lunar eclipse, that energy really helps you see both perspectives in a much clearer way. So with Khamenei's chart, we can see that he had a very narrow perspective, which is not, that's not bad. Like it's not bad to be born on a new moon by any means. But it is just a different way of viewing the world. And that is the way that he viewed it was he could probably see very clearly from his own perspective and probably wasn't too concerned about many other people's ways of seeing things, if that makes sense. But we got to look at him in the context of Operation Epic Fury. Okay, so here, I mean, just look at this. With the moment of Operation Epic Fury out here on the outside, we had, I'll flip it around. Okay. Inside now is Operation Epic Fury, and we had that Chiron and Ceres conjunction right by his little new moon. This is injuries to the physical body on his body, so that is an interesting moment. And I thought, looking at this, oh no, where it was over here. Look at this. The moon at this moment that this operation began, 28 degrees of Cancer, and Khamenei's Pluto is at 29 degrees of Cancer. And I just thought, oh man, I bet that like as everything was going on, like the moon was literally transiting his Pluto, the planet of death, like as this happened, you know. So I was looking at this and I was like, you know, I think that this was the end of his mortal tenure. Just looking at this chart, I'm like, oh boy, look at that. And look at that, how interesting that his natal Venus, it was his Venus return like right now. He had this happen during his Venus return, which is very interesting because Venus is considered a benefic. It's a blessing. And I don't know. From a Christian perspective, maybe it was a blessing for his time to be up before more trauma happened. Who knows? Who knows? But I thought that this was a very interesting alignment to be happening. Um, but yeah, look at that with the Chiron and the natal sun and moon, and then the transiting moon going right over his Pluto. Amazing. I mean, like, just like shocking, astonishing to me that it is like totally crazy. And then here we have his natal Neptune right next to the midheaven right there, which to me also says Neptune is the planet of confusion. It's a planet of illusion and delusion and maybe not having the full story. And so I think that is a really good indicator of everything that I've talked about, like the reflection of that even when he might be extremely bodily impacted by this event, there may still be some confusion about what actually happened, particularly among his supporters. Um, so that will be interesting. Okay, any other charts that I didn't talk about yet? Okay, we had Donald Trump's chart, and I wanted to take a look at that in the context of Operation Epic Fury. And he's on the inside now, but I think I had looked at it the other way. Is that true? Um, okay, here we have this event happening conjunct Donald Trump's natal Venus. So a lot of Venus energy kind of showing up across Khomeini, Trump, and this moment in time. Which is interesting because Venus is not typically associated with war. But let's go back to a chart I haven't opened in a long time. Let's see, the Pluto return of 2022. Let's see, Pluto return. Is this it? That's the third one. I need America's first Pluto return. Oh, come on. Oh my gosh, I'm not finding it. A couple of years ago, my Astro Gold had a big problem, and all of my charts were deleted, and I've had to like slowly rebuild my collection of charts. Nope, Mars returns. Nope. Okay, here we go. There it is. Sorry, the Pluto return of February the 20th, 2022. Okay, look at that. We have Venus and Mars exact at 19 degrees. And at the time, I had said that to me, I wondered if we could see a woman taking power. I wondered if like Kamala Harris might take over for Joe Biden or something. Now, looking at how Venus is interplaying in all of these charts that are so critical for what's going on right now in Iran, I'm thinking how interesting that Venus seems to be a little bit of an indicator of that Mars style aggression, but maybe because in the context of the Pluto return, um, I don't know. I don't even know my total thought about that, but I think it is really interesting. Okay, here's the long and short of it. The stars foretold that we were going to see some more, and here we are. I think that this is certainly, um, you know, this is not the craziest thing that we're going to see over the next 2.5 years, and we're just going to have to keep our eyes on what shows up. Um, this is not a fear zone. We're not going to head into it afraid. We know that as long as we are connecting with our creator, that we can be led every single day. We know not to be super fixated on what is going on in the bigger world. What we can control is what we have to take responsibility for and own. So our job is to focus on us and making sure that our own bodies and our families are happy and taken care of. And oh man, what is it? The circle. Oh, I can't remember it. Is it Saint Augustine? who taught about the circles of love. I think that's not the right word. Maybe somebody knows it. They'll type it below. But that the number one thing that you have to love is God. And then comes like yourself and your spouse and your family and your kids, and then comes your friends and your community, and then comes like your bigger community, like maybe your whole town or like your state. Like you care about your neighborhood, and then you take care of your town, and then your state, and then your country, and our job is to make sure that we're mastering from the inside out, because when we start fixating on the things from the outside in, then the inside falls apart. And also, we didn't really make a big difference for the outer stuff. If you care about the whole world, if you're into stress about the whole world, but you're not taking care of yourself and your relationships with your family is a mess, like that's the backwards priority. Our job is to focus on ourselves and making sure that our family is okay. And then after our lives are kind of hunky dory, then we can go and like cry our little eyes out about the rest of the world. But having our souls organized in what we care about in the proper order, I think is really important to having a functional life. So let's, you know, we can keep an eye on this. I think it's very interesting. I think it is worth looking at, and that's why I do videos like this. But at the end of the day, we need to focus on ourselves, take care of our families, make sure you eat something with a lot of nutrition today. Take your multivitamin, right? Focus on what's really important and don't live in fear. This is not fear time. The more we live in fear, the more our bodies react. We end up having cortisol reactions. It messes with our hormones, it messes with our total health, and it's just not worth it. So please do not be scared. Do not be overly stressed. Many tragic things happen every day, and way more tragic things happen every day than we ever hear about. And I have always thought it was really interesting how our news exposure can really impact how safe we feel and how happy we feel. Um, Knowing how much the news, like news organizations, curate what we hear about, like on my own feeds, I follow what I follow. I get all of this information, and I went to hang out with a friend. This was a couple months ago, and she asked hey, stop, stop, stop. It's not bell time. It's not bell time, please. No bells right now. Anyway, I was like, oh man, well, I just can't believe, all of this thing, the Indian trucker that did the U-turn in the middle of the highway and like killed that family. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're giving commercial driver's licenses to people who don't speak English and who aren't even here legally. And she said, oh, I haven't heard about that. I didn't know about that at all. But she watches the news all day. But like which news, And so like the news I was getting is very different from her news. So she's very worried about the stuff that she's worried about because of the newsfeed that she is experiencing. For me, I mean, I don't like the whole CDL situation, but I wouldn't say it necessarily keeps me up at night, but I'm aware of it. The stuff that I'm aware of is very different than the stuff that she is aware of. But there's way more than that all of us could be aware of, and if we were, it would keep us up at night. Um, but is it productive? Is it productive? And maybe it's not always productive. So if you are feeling a lot of stress about what's going on in the world, I'm gonna invite us all to like take a little break from the news. It is unlikely that there's information on the news that you will absolutely need in your life for the function of your everyday life, today. And yeah, we've just got to be wise about what information we take in and what we choose to believe versus like holding space for. Like I was saying with these whole like deep fake things and everything, we're going to be receiving so much information that is not necessarily true. And sometimes we receive true information that is not really accurately framed. Um, Man, I'm thinking of like so many examples that I don't even really want to go into, but things where they'll say, this happened or that happened. And like, it's true that it did happen. But then when you like look into it, the story was like drastically different than presented. I feel like I've seen like three different stories like that today, where the headline just did not match reality. But if I'd only read the headline, then I wouldn't know that reality was like the exact opposite of what the headline stated, right? Anyway, focus on you. Go take your deep breaths and go do some stretches and take a walk outside and breathe the fresh air and choose gratitude and ask for God's divine blessing on your life and trust that everything is unfolding in its perfect timing, even if we don't like it, even if we're not comfortable with it, even if it makes us sad, even if we wish that certain things hadn't happened. There is a bigger plan. It's bigger than you, it's bigger than me. The most we can do is kind of try to piece it together. Basically, I like star charts and like personal revelation. And even at the end of the day, I know that I basically don't know anything. So I don't know. What even good is it anyway? I don't know. I just think it's interesting. But the most important thing is focusing on yourself, your body, your family, making sure that every day you get up and say, okay, God, what do you want me to do today? And taking that step, whatever it is that you feel like God is leading you to do, you just do that thing. And as long as you do that every day, that's all that you have to do. You do not owe it to the planet to work yourself up into a frenzy over the news. You don't owe that to anybody. Nobody requires that of you. You don't have to do that. So I invite you to opt out and to choose into peace and trust instead, and trusting that God is going to take care of it. All the details, God will handle it. It is not your job to handle it, and you don't have to live your life upset about it to prove that you were a good person or that like I cared and so I was so upset because I cared. That's very nice, but also you don't have to do that. You can still care and also sleep well at night. That is okay. You can care and also not spend your life glued to the news. So, okay, well, there you go. I will go help my kids now, and I hope that you have a good day despite it all. Um, okay, talk to you later.